Professor Lena Caldwell had always lived by two rules: don't show favoritism and never cross a line. At 39, she'd built a respected academic career in political philosophy at Eastbridge University. Known for her razor-sharp lectures and immaculately tailored blazers, Lena commanded the kind of reverence in her lecture hall usually reserved for stage actors and high-ranking judges. She thought she'd seen every kind of student: eager, lazy, brilliant, entitled, but none like Julian Ward. He first caught her attention in her second-year seminar, Power and Ethics in the Modern State. 22 years old, majoring in international relations, Julian was the kind of student who didn't just answer questions. He dismantled them, rebuilt them, and stared her down as if daring her to challenge him. His essays were fiercely intelligent, layered with nuance. His questions were unafraid. But it wasn't just the intellect. It was the way he looked at her. Not like a professor, not like a mentor, but like a woman. That look made her pulse misbehave. Lena tried to ignore it. She reminded herself that he was barely older than some of her grad students, that she had a reputation to uphold, that her marriage, though quietly crumbling, still technically existed. Her husband, Marcus, a finance executive in Chicago, visited only on weekends now. They hadn't touched in months. And Julian was just a student. Until he showed up during office hours. It was raining that Thursday. She was wrapping up emails when a soft knock interrupted the hush. "Come in." Julian stepped inside, damp curls flattened by the rain, hoodie clinging slightly to his arms. He looked freshly rained on, flushed with adrenaline. "Professor Caldwell," he said, breathless. "You said you'd go over the Hobbes section with me." She'd forgotten. Lena cleared her throat and gestured to the seat across from her desk. "Of course. Sit." He did, tossing his backpack on the floor and leaning forward, elbows on knees. As she began walking him through the social contract theory, she noticed how intently he watched her mouth. Not her hands. Not her notes. Her mouth. "You're not listening," she said, tapping the text with her pen. "I am," he replied. "Every word. I just sometimes wonder if you mean everything you say." She blinked. "Excuse me." Julian smiled, not cocky but open. "Bold. You lecture about control and power and ethics, but I think you believe in something more dangerous. Something personal." Her skin tingled. "That's not relevant to your paper." "Maybe not," he said, voice lower now. "But it's relevant to why I'm here." Lena straightened. "Which is?" "I think about you." He didn't flinch. "More than I should." Silence. She should have shut it down. Should have reminded him of boundaries, of university policy, of how inappropriate this was. But instead she asked, "Do you?" "Yes," he said. "All the time." Her mouth went dry. She stared at him. This young, brilliant man with defiance in his jaw and hunger in his eyes, and felt her resolve begin to dissolve. "I'm married," she whispered. "So am I." "To debt," he smirked. "But that doesn't stop my mind from going places it shouldn't." The laugh that escaped her lips shocked her. "Like, dangerous. Life." "Julian." "Lena," he said, testing her name on his tongue. "We can pretend that this is just about philosophy, or you can let me stay a little longer." Her heart thundered. "Lock the door," she said. Julian didn't hesitate. He rose from his chair and turned the lock with a subtle click. The sound filled the small office like thunder. Lena watched him, her fingers still resting on the open textbook, now absurdly irrelevant. She was breathing harder than she wanted to admit. He moved slowly, aware of the stakes of her uncertainty, of the undeniable gravity drawing them together. "Tell me to leave," he said, standing across from her desk. "I will." She didn't speak. Instead, she reached for her glasses, slid them off, and set them down beside her laptop. Julian stepped forward. He rounded the desk carefully, eyes locked on hers. Lena stood, nearly trembling, feeling the age gap between them evaporate in the electricity of the moment. "I've imagined this," he said softly. "Every night since your lecture on Rousseau." She gave a shaky laugh. Rousseau. Really? You talked about surrender. It did something to me. She took a step closer, so close she could smell the faint rain on his hoodie, the heat rising off his skin. You have no idea what this could cost me. I know. That's why it matters. Then finally she reached for him. Her fingers curled into his hoodie and pulled him down to her lips. The first kiss was restrained, almost exploratory. But when she tasted the heat of his mouth, so eager, so alive, restraint gave way to something else entirely. He groaned into her mouth, hands sliding around her waist. The hunger was real, immediate, and impossibly mutual. She pushed aside her chair and pressed him against the bookshelf, their bodies flush, breaths catching between kisses. Her hands fumbled with the zipper of his hoodie, revealing the tight, toned frame beneath. She traced the line of his collarbone with her mouth and felt him shudder. "Jesus, Lena," he whispered, gripping the edge of the shelf. "No," she whispered against his neck, biting lightly. "Not here. Sit." He obeyed, dropping into her desk chair. His eyes wide and dark, shirt rumpled, jeans tight against his thighs. She slowly peeled off her blazer, the silk blouse beneath hugging her curves. She undid the top 2 buttons, then straddled his lap. Julian's hands found her hips. Her thighs pressed tightly against his. She leaned in, lips barely grazing his ear. "You're not my student right now," she whispered. "You're just a man. And I need to feel like a woman again." He looked up at her, voice hoarse. "Then let me." Their mouths collided again, rougher now, impatient. She felt his fingers exploring beneath her blouse, finding the lace beneath, the soft curves he'd only imagined. His touch was reverent and ravenous all at once. Her hands dipped between them, finding the waistband of his jeans. She hesitated, only for a moment. "Still time to stop," she murmured. "I'll never ask you to," he said, lifting his hips to help her. What followed was a blur of moans and sighs and the quiet creak of an office chair under desperate motion. Her skirt hiked up, her blouse undone, her body finally claiming what her mind had resisted for weeks. They moved together, awkward at first, but then perfectly in sync, like they'd done this 1,000 times in some parallel life where age, titles, and consequences didn't exist. She gripped his shoulders as he held her tightly, anchoring her with strength and hunger and something dangerously close to worship. When they came, it was nearly silent, urgent gasps muffled against skin, trembling limbs locked together. Only 2 people, hungry, flawed, and fiercely alive, finally choosing what they couldn't forget.